2023 City Council meeting for the City of Lamar. I'm Mayor Kirk Crespin. I apologize for the little bit of a delay. We had a work session earlier speaking about wastewater, our wastewater treatment plant, as well as the wastewater master plan and how we're going to get there in the future over the next 10 years and how we're going to pay for this. So it was a very interesting discussion. We have a lot of hard decisions to make over the next few months, and a lot of more discussions to have. So hopefully the council will be ready for that and we'll get that taken care of. One thing I would like to take a moment to say is that, we had a great snow, brought a lot of moisture up to our community. But I gotta thank our city crews. I mean, they were out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, already starting right off. Some of them were even earlier. Pat, you've done a great job on that, and your whole staff. And Rob, thank you for all your work on that. But all of the crew, I do want to share my appreciation for that and tell them how much we really do appreciate it. The streets looked great. It was safe. We didn't have that many accidents. We didn't have people stuck, at least not that many. So it was very good, and I appreciate that. Who do we have for our invocation tonight? Looks like we have Galen Burnett. Do we have our invocation?
Father, we do want to thank you for the moisture we got, and that's great. We need some more of it. But please don't let us have a lot of problems with ice. Father, we want to thank you and praise you for your love and your blessing and your protection upon our city. We thank you for our city council and our administration and our workers who work here in our city and make it a good place. Father, we pray that you will continue to bless our city and bless the people who are leading it and those who are working in our city. Father, we pray your blessing and protection upon all of the people who live here. Father, we thank you for that. We pray that you'll just be giving our city council and our officers here in our city instruction and wisdom and guidance so they can make the best decisions out of the matters of business that they're discussing tonight. Father, work with them and lead them. And we thank you for that. We thank you for all your good work. And we praise you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Gonzalez, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the time is now 7:07 p.m. I will call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Joe Gonzalez.
Here.
Mike Bellamy.
Here.
Jerry Jenkins.
Here.
Kurt Crespin.
Here.
Mike Duffy.
Here.
Daniel Smith.
Here.
Anne Marie Crampton.
Here.
Rob Evans.
Here.
Kristen Swartz.
Here.
Lance Clark.
Here.
Okay, we've all had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Are there any changes or corrections that we need to vote on separate?
I didn't see any.
Move we approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carry.
Unanimous in favor of.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject that does not appear on the agenda. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each, and that is at the discretion of the council. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak to the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the city treasurer's report. Kristen?
I have no report this evening unless somebody has questions for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing no questions, we'll move on to the city clerk's report. Linda?
And I have no report tonight.
Do you have any questions for the city clerk? Seeing none, we'll move on to the city administrator report.
All right, so Coffee with Rob will go on Wednesday. We'll go to the TA Center, and then I'll work my way down south. We'll go to Daylight Donuts and brew into others, and we'll hit those over the next couple of weeks. But come on out, have a cup of coffee, and talk to me about the city. We have some more Trailblazer auditions on the 24th and 25th. That's tomorrow and Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Cultural Events Center here in the building. The Chamber of Commerce banquet is going to be on Friday, the 27th at 6 p.m. at the Eagles Lodge. The Snow Goose Festival happens on February the 2nd through the 5th, and I know that there's a lot of excitement building up on that one again, so that's always a good draw for people coming from outside the city. I know that I've tried to, for this year, look a little further out on some of the ordinances that may not have been looked at in a few years, and maybe some of the situations changes. So I was going to use this time for any of you guys that if you had an ordinance that you wanted me to take a look at, possibly do we need to review or update it or maybe put it on the agenda in the future? But we may have a chance later today on a different ordinance if you guys talk about it. But I wanted to give you guys a chance to give me a list of things to do.
I would like to, at some point, get an update on the vacancy ordinance that we had passed. I know you were going to be implementing that at the first of the year, and you've been working on
And the
that.
letters have been going out already, the first set of
already have?
letters. Yep.
Okay. So that's already in the process. Are there any other, council? Okay.
And any other miscellaneous discussions or recommendations or questions? Guys did great, man. You should have seen them
The crew on
Yep.
the snow plowing? Yes, they did great.
throwing snow everywhere. That's good.
Is there an
Good job,
ordinance for, I had heard that there's an ordinance that limits modulars from a certain line in the city, a certain street, certain direction, you can't have modulars.
I think it's just a zone.
Zoning.
Depends on the
It's
zoning.
by the zoning. And there are some things that say none at all, like Connex boxes and things like that. But modulars, it's just in the zones, and I think there's 2 of them. I'd have to go look. I'll get back to you on that one, though. But it's zoning will tell you.
Are you talking modular or manufactured homes? Because I feel like we've got,
Yeah.
Quite a few modulars in town, and I think the modulars are in the residential areas, but
Right.
for the mobile homes, the manufactured homes, those are in a different.
That's right. That's right.
Classification
Yeah, that's not what
altogether.
I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about modulars.
Okay.
So I'll get you.
Manufactured, whatever you wanna call it, the ones the double wides, they bring in, they don't have a frame, they take them off, set them on there, it's a house.
It's all by zoning, and I can give you the requirements and the, okay.
So there's a zoning map, and then there's a list of the zones and what's included in each zone.
That's
So
good.
if you could
I'll get it to
distribute
them.
that to the council.
The
that
whole
would be
council, I'll
helpful.
get it to them.
Is that good, Mike?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. And then I know I'd received a couple of calls over the last couple of days. I know the city crew, they did a great job, like I mentioned, and Rob mentioned, on working through, trying to clear out our streets. We did have some individuals that were climbing over the big hills and the mounds that were causing more of a headache because they would end up knocking it over into the middle of the street and cars couldn't pass through, and that was after the crews had already been through there. So I just wanted to take a moment to, ask you to please keep that in mind, that, I know it might be fun and exciting to climb over these mountains, but at the same time, that causes the street crews to have to come back through again, especially when they were planning to come back through and pick them up and move them. The other thing that I wanted to point out was some of the individuals or businesses that are clearing out their driveways. Some have also been piling the snow right on the drains. So as the snow is melting and coming down the street, their big pile of snow is right on the drains. So please keep that in mind as well as you're clearing out your snow piles and moving them to the corner, not to block those drains, so that way we can have that melting snow go as it should.
Can I
Did
add one
miss
thing?
anything?
No. I was saying that's a great thing that you mentioned, the knocking over the windrows of the snow. The first time going through, please be considerate of our guys who get up super early to make sure that we have a driving lane. You also have to be careful a little bit later on after they melt and turn to ice, because we've had a couple of vehicles that ended up having a whole bunch of damage because they tried to run through those things of ice. And so it's also a safety warning.
Okay.
Fire hydrants also mine.
Oh, and watching out for the fire
Yep.
hydrants with piles of snow, so. All right, I just wanted to point those out before we moved on. Any questions for our city administrator? Seeing none, we'll move to reports and correspondence from the council. Do we have any reports from the council?
I have none.
I have none.
No.
Nope.
I have a
Mike?
question about LPI.
Just today, we have come to a semi-agreement to get some part-time help for some of the special projects. We did not get somebody to fill the job permanently. We're still looking.
Is there some reason why LPI is not having meetings?
I will have to find out from the president.
And also the rec does not have meetings since
Well-
I've been on council.
Just this week, we made an offer and got accepted for our Park and Recs director. We also have a program coordinator that's going to be coming in. So I think that we're finally getting some good traction on some of those level jobs, and I think that that will be corrected soon.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else reports? Do you have anything from PEP?
New officers?
Powers Economic Prosperity?
New officers are, at large are Rick
Rick and,
Robbins and Joe Spitz.
Mhm.
VP is Tregan Marquez. Treasurer is Tyler Thrall. Secretary is Brady Turpin.
That's right.
And president is Anne Marie Crampton.
That's right. Also, they brought in some new people, including TA is now a member. That's a good
Yes,
thing.
TA is a new member.
Thank you,
a full
TA.
member. Yes. Yes.
All right.
And things are in progress. It's good to have two people working on economic development. It really makes a
That's
difference.
awesome.
Great.
I would like to give a shout out to our Lamar Fire Department for the fire that they had last week. Was it on 10th and Oak? I did stop in to check on them. They were pretty tired and they did a really good job. Also Officer Corey, and the PD that helped out. We really appreciate all the hard work you guys do and the dedication.
Okay.
Echo that, yeah.
All right. With that said, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our new business. We have an appointment to the Water Advisory Board. This was initiated by our Water Board. We'll have Pat Mason come up.
So, at our last water board meeting last week, we actually had one application submitted. It was Roy Q, who actually took Don Higby's position at WAMA. So we felt like it'd be fitting to approve of Roy coming on the board and filling out the remainder of Don's term. So that term would end on February 1st of 2025. And the board did vote unanimously in favor of recommending him to council that we let him have that spot on the board, so.
Okay.
I move we approve the Roy Q's appointment to the Water Advisory Board.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Roy Q to the Water Advisory Board. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Next item is to approve the agreement between the City of Lamar and Southeast Wellness for an employee wellness program. This is initiated by Margaret Saldana, our Human Resources Director. Margaret? Oh, she's coming.
This was not included in the packet, I apologize.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So good evening, council. So in your packet, you will notice that there's a memorandum of agreement between the City of Lamar and Southeast Wellness Works. And my recommendation tonight is that you approve and authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum, excuse me, between the City of Lamar and Southeast Wellness Works for the Employee Assistance Program. This is the 6th year that we'll be partnering with them with this agreement. And the little brochure that I gave you outlines what they provide to our employees. It'll begin with the cost of $650 for 10 sessions, and it runs for the annual year of 2023, starting January 1st, ending December 31st. So I'm asking that you authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Any questions?
Yes, in this flyer here, it says 4 sessions, but we're going to 10.
We pay for 10 sessions.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In the years past, we've clearly used all of those 10 sessions and used more than that. Do you have any idea?
We get reports, quarterly reports from Southeast Wellness, and there's been years that we haven't used all the sessions. And then there's been other years where, yeah, they've been utilized. This year, we had a little bit of a rollover, I guess, of sessions, so,
So they will roll over?
yes.
Good, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Margaret, is this the same agreement that we passed last year?
Yes,
Same language?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we-
I reviewed it, I don't have any problems with it. One-year contract, subject to automatic renewal, paid unless terminated. Otherwise, same question.
Okay.
Thanks.
I move we approve.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Thanks, Margaret. Agenda item number 3 is to rezone attractive land described as 4th Division Southwest Quarter, Section 17, Tract 23, Section 23S, on the SSS T23S, R46W. This is, which area would this be? Rob?
Well, I was thinking that Stephanie was going to be here, but she wasn't part of when it happened anyway. County Road 8.2.
This is a County Road 8.2.
What's your street?
This is Memorial Drive.
But I mean, what's,
No,
Is that gonna be between Clark and Reed's place?
Is this Sutphen's?
yes, it is.
Okay, so this is the Sutphen area, the area between the Clarks and
And the Reed.
Reedies, yes.
Yes.
so it is?
It'd be on the west side
Right.
Drive there, just south of Clark's residence, probably just about south of RD5.
Yeah.
Which backs
that's
up
what I
to
was-
the golf course.
Yes. So John Sutphen had contacted me quite some time ago. They were looking at doing a subdivision in this area for a new housing project. They liked the idea of it being adjacent to the golf course and off of Memorial Drive. It's a great area. This was something he's been working on for, I think, 2 to 3 years.
Couple of
that
years,
I've
yeah.
talked to him about. So it looks like they're moving forward with this. I'm sorry, I didn't catch it at first with the description, but now that I'm familiar with it, I understand what we're doing. So this would be to rezone it, so that way he could start the process of setting up the subdivision.
Right. I was actually at the meeting and they voted to approve it and recommend it to the council that you guys approve it. But I believe this was just some paperwork, some maintenance that we didn't bring it to you at the time.
So the zoning and planning and zoning is already met, and they've already approved it and are recommending it.
I make a motion to approve the rezoning.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning. Any other questions?
Okay, right here it says the planning and zoning board approved the request as long as the property was annexed into the city.
Which it has been.
It has.
Okay.
That was that ordinance they included in there that showed it had been annexed.
Yeah, the next sentence says the property was annexed on 2012, so.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Next item on the agenda is the CDOT Aeronautics Grant Agreement 23-LAA-02 for runway 826 pavement maintenance. This was initiated by Pat Mason. Pat?
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. So I got a little bit of a confession to make on this particular grant. I had been talking to CDOT a little bit about it early in last year, and they were talking about not only funding our airport, our crosswind runway, but some other additional airports in the state of Colorado, where it was more or less a maintenance project, kind of like I'll call it a sand seal, so to speak. And so we've been struggling with our crosswind for a little while, just trying to figure out how to save it for as long as we can until we can find the funds to rebuild it. But I didn't realize until the day before the application was due, they called me and said, hey, you're going to turn your application in. I said, well, I guess I was waiting on the email to say I had to apply for it. So I went ahead and applied. There is a $22,000 cash match for the grant that was not budgeted. But I think by that time, budget had already been done. But anyhow, they're offering the grant. It's $200,000. I felt like if I was going to have to perform some maintenance, which I'm probably going to have to in the next year or two, that I would have to expend those funds out of my paving line item for the capital line item for the paving. So this way we can get $222,000 worth of maintenance work done on the crosswind for $22,000. And I'm hoping that council would go along with funding it out of the paving, the $425,000 we had set aside in the capital for paving this year.
Pat, I have a question. Can we still, or are we up for that one grant that passes on? I believe it's $149,000 from airport to airport. Are we due to get that back?
Yeah, so basically, we get $150,000 in what they call entitlements every year for our airport. So we do we're in a pool of other airports, I think it's 5 other airports, that over the course of 5 years, we will share our entitlement money with them, but then they'll return the favor, and we may do one big project for $1 million, which we just did one on actually a portion of the Taxiway A project. But we're in that time frame now where we're paying back those other airports for the money they loaned us more or less to do a bigger project. So that's kind of the way that program works. The FAA monitors all that and tracks it and keeps up with the paperwork on who's due what, and when it's our turn, rolls around to do a project, and we do a 5-year capital plan every year. We update it, and it's got all those numbers in it. So it'll be, I think 2026 is when we're scheduled to do another project on another piece of the taxiway, please, so.
All right, thank you. I just thought maybe that funds were available and we could use part of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, those funds, it gets kind of complicated, but believe it or not, the FAA doesn't really fund the crosswind. They'll fund your main runway and the main taxiway and the apron, but they don't always do crosswind. So we have to rely on either CDOT for their help, or we have to take the money out of our own funds to do it. So one of the things we've been pushing on with the airport master plan was the FAA didn't totally rule out helping us, but they said, hey, you need to get your master plan done first. Then we may consider at some point in time helping you with your crosswind. But at this point in time, it's a no. They won't fund the crosswind at all. So,
Kirsten, can we do that cash match?
I agreed with Pat that we'd have to take that out of the streets. So if you guys do approve it, I'll need the motion to be specific to transfer those dollars from the general fund to the airport fund. But I do believe that that is what we're going to have to do to make this one happen.
When are they gonna start?
so it would be this year. I'm being told it would be later this year, maybe late spring, early summer. And so CDOT's more or less bid this out. They've hired the contractor to do it all. I'm not sure schedule-wise when exactly they would show up, but it would definitely be this summer.
And this has already been approved, the grant, if we accept it?
Yeah, if we accept it. Now, one other thing I was going to mention is that the state's transition to doing everything by DocuSign. So the reason why I'm here tonight with this resolution is the council has to approve the resolution, then they will email you the DocuSign document. I believe Linda, myself will have to sign it.
So we would need a motion to approve the resolution for the CDOT Aeronautics grant and to transfer the funds from the general fund to the airport fund.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to motion to ratify the approval of the Fourth Amendment to Purchase Agreement between the City of Lamar and RB Colorado LLC. I had brought this in earlier this last week to extend the purchase agreement between us and RB Colorado because we have finally received the approval to move forward from the state as far as the state CDPHE's approval, and they are still working on pricing. Just to give you an update, I have been in constant communications with Mr. Lash. He will actually be visiting next month. We'll be meeting in person to go over some more details, but we're trying to really hammer out the details on how to make this work because, as I mentioned last month, the pricing between this time last year and this time and now has increased about $650,000. So we're trying to find a way to get those numbers down. We do have another local contractor who recently, within the last 48 hours, contacted Arby's and is working on a bid for them directly. So we're hoping that that will help cut some of that cost down as well so we can make this happen. But the good thing is we're still in discussions, we're still moving forward. We're still both very positive we can make something happen. So this is just one of those portions where we need to extend that agreement for the 90 days to give them more time to complete their planning. Did you have any questions from the council or?
Same contract as before, same extension, just extends it to April 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay, agenda item number 6, equitable sharing agreement and certification. This was brought in by Kristen Schwartz. Kristen?
Yes, this is my annual report that I'm required to submit to the Department of Justice on the DEA forfeiture dollars that we received several years ago. We didn't spend any in '22, so we had a beginning balance of $1,092.24, and we had an ending balance of $1,092.24. So I just need your approval of the certification and allow the mayor to sign and allow the treasurer to submit electronically.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. You have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Agenda item number 7, ACA reporting agreement for 2022 for the 1095s with Clifton Larson Allen LLP. This was also initiated by our city treasurer, Kristen Schwartz. Kristen?
Yes, so we have contracted with Clifton Larson to help us submit our 1095s and the transmittal form of the 1094 to the IRS since this began. So we've done it since 2016. There's a lot of requirements on the submission as far as formatting and things like that. So Clifton Larson works directly with our ADG software company to make sure that our files that I generate fit what the IRS needs. Clifton Larson does all of the editing and they submit those on our behalf. So I just asking, now they did change this year. They went to a master services agreement, and laid a corrected copy in front of you for that. It's a 5-year master services agreement. And then there's also a statement of work agreement also attached. This was the first year that they went to that master services agreement. And that is a 5-year agreement, but it's contingent upon if you engage with them for the statement of work each year. So Lance visited with the people at CLA, and we added some language to that master services agreement that just made it very specific that we weren't held to those terms unless we engaged with them with the statement of work. So that's what the correction was. So I'm asking tonight that you would approve the master services agreement and also the statement of work for our 221095s that are required by the IRS.
And I'm in agreement with the changes that they made. I think it's clear now that it's a 1-year agreement, so there's no future financial obligation unless the council decides to contract with them in the future.
Okay. Council? Any questions, discussion, motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the service agreement with CLA, allow the mayor to sign electronically, and what else?
The statement of work.
And for the statement, master service agreement and the statement of work.
Yes, sir.
Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion on ordinance 1233, the keeping of hen chickens within the city limits. Kyle, would you mind just coming up for a second? So my understanding is, we had a post in a press release earlier this week, just reminding our citizens that if you're gonna have hens within the city limits, that you needed to file a permit, get registered, make sure that we have all the requirements met. Was there a reason why we did that to start with? Was there, I had heard there was some hens running around the city, but I don't know if that was true.
I'm not aware of any hens running around the city. There's some hens in the city that are in cages, but I haven't heard of any running around the city. So the big motivating factor was, obviously you go to the store to buy a dozen eggs and they're 50 cents an egg or 60 cents an egg. So we just wanted to get out there, kind of get ahead of the curve, let everybody know that if you want to get chickens, that's good, but there's a process you have to follow in order to get those chickens. So that's the only motivation behind it, was to try to get out in front of it and let everybody know this is the process if you want to have hen chickens in the city limits of Lamar.
Okay. Well, I know this, for me, I didn't realize it and hear about the press release until the next day when it kind of blew up on Facebook. But, you know, we had quite a few families come in back in, I think it was 2019.
Right.
That came to the council because at that time, there were no chickens, no hens, none of that in the city limits. And we worked with these families quite a bit. We had open sessions, we had a work session, we had discussions. I think we even had a hearing, public hearing on that ordinance. But we discussed allowing that to happen. And when we did that, we also considered what it costs for us to do the inspections, make sure that we have the certain requirements by the state to ensure that we had everything in place so that we can legally allow chickens to be in the city limits. And we worked with them to define this ordinance. We worked with them to define the fee structure. And in the last 3 years, since 2019, we've had 22 total applicants. And of those, 7 have dropped off. So we only have 15 permits in the city limits as of right now. I think it was one of those things where, you know, obviously we don't want cows roaming through the streets or roosters roaming down Main Street. So we've always limited farm animals within the city limits according to our zoning codes and enforcement. But this was an exception we made according to what these families were requesting. So we did that with the intention of making it accessible for families to be able to have hens, whether it was to have eggs or whether it was for a 4-H project or for whatever it may be, a hobby. And I felt like that was pretty it was a good thing for our community, it was a good thing for our citizens, it was a good thing for the council to work on that. So as this blew up on Facebook and everybody was in arms about this, some people were saying that this was a big crisis about the egg shortage and the situation with the eggs. But the bottom line is what's happening is we do have the avian flu that's affected it. But more importantly, back in 2020, the state of Colorado approved 2 bills. One was the plastic bag bill, and the other one was the cage-free egg bill, which means that eggs can only be sold within a certain requirements to be cage-free eggs or hens or raising of the hens or whatever it may be. And that has caused such a great change throughout our whole state as far as the availability for these eggs, because the cheapest eggs have been caged hens. And that is now gone as of January the 1st. So this wasn't a situation where it's a nationwide crisis. This was a change that was brought in by our state legislation, and it's finally went into effect on 2023. And of course, with the avian flu, that hasn't helped the situation anymore. So the question that was brought up to me was, why doesn't the city waive that $50 fee? And, you know, as I mentioned before, we worked on this $50 fee with those families and with the city to make sure that we had enough revenue to offset what it was going to cost the citizens of Lamar to pay for the regulation, the monitoring, the visits, and all of that. And that was the $50 is what it came out to. So in that discussion online on Facebook, I did commit to at least bringing this up to the council and letting the council decide and letting us discuss it. I'm not sure what our council's thoughts are, but I wanted to open up that discussion, and I wanted to at least give you a chance to talk about it as well if you had anything to add.
No, I think that, like you said, it was passed in 2019. This has been ongoing for the past 3 years. I think it was August or September of 2019 when it was passed. We've had no major problems. We've had a few people come in, they forget to get it, they forget to do their initial application, but we go contact them, and within a couple of weeks, they're in here in compliance. So we've had no major issue with the chicken license or somebody just taking all 10 hens and kicking them out in the street and letting them roam free. I'm not aware of any of those happening since this went into place. So, and again, like you said, my code enforcement officer had to go out, initially verify there's square footage requirements in the ordinances, they have to go out there and check all these things, make sure there's enough room for the hens in the roost. So there's a lot of work that goes into it from our side. And then every year we go back out there and verify it. And it's a lot quicker because we can say, look, nothing changed from last year. This year we go out there and physically verify that. And then we turn it back into Linda for her to do her side. So there's not paperwork just on my side, but it's also on the clerk's office. They have paperwork that they have to get done in order to verify these chicken licenses. We have these requirements for liquor licenses, for a lot of other things too, where we have to do all these checks and balances, and they have to pay for that. And I think that's just a way for us to cover our administrative costs to cover this. We're in no way making a profit off of $50. Zero chance.
Right.
Can I say something real quick?
Please do.
So your first, when you get a new chicken license, it's $50. If you continue with your chickens, the renewal process is only $25. So, and as long as you renew every year, it's only the $25. So the cost does go down.
Did you say there's 15 right now? About 15?
Currently, there's 15
So
that are
it's kind of a
outstanding.
novelty,
Right.
really, for a city our size. 15 licenses is about a novelty.
Yeah.
If suddenly people are saying, wow, we're worried about the price of eggs, and we now have 1,500 licenses, we might have to raise that fee.
We could, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the reality is that I don't think that it's, exorbitant for a $50 initial fee, especially if we suddenly get a rush on people wanting to get their applications in, so.
And my code officers are my two busiest officers in my department. So to throw something else on them, it's more work that they're having to do and more time away from their day to go do other things. So the point in this wasn't to make a profit or make money or do anything else. It was to cover our administrative costs in order to get the licenses approved and through the process.
And there is a process to it. I mean, this
Absolutely.
isn't just you can buy chickens and throw them in your backyard and let them run. There's certain square footage, you have to have a certain type of coop that you have to do, and there are certain responsibilities that you would have to have as a citizen of Lamar to have that. And that's why that permit is necessary, so that we can make sure that that's happening. So I don't think that it was meant to be something that was outrageous or a big moneymaker for the city of Lamar by any means. So the question is, council, what do you guys think? Do we just leave it as it is and encourage people to get their permits and contact the city? I know I have done some research over the last week, and I looked into La Junta and Walsenburg and Trinidad and some of the other communities. They do have a section in their ordinance that says if there is special needs or if there is a special circumstance, you can apply for an exemption. And that would go to the council and get approved by the council for an exemption to that family. If it's extenuating circumstances, for us to waive that fee, the permit fee and some of the requirements. But that's no different than anything else that we do in the city of Lamar. If there is a extraordinary circumstance and you have to have chickens in your backyard so you can have eggs because you have no other way of getting eggs, then you can contact the city of Lamar and we can work with you. But we can look at something like that, or we could
Just
waive it
abolish
for.
the fees.
Yeah. I mean,
What are we looking
even
at? How
maintain
long does it
chickens.
take a guy to come out there, drive to your address? He can do that while he's on other calls or on his route. 15 minutes to get out with a tape measure, measure stuff.
And I think the
Come back another
question,
time for a 10-minute inspection. I mean, we're not talking about an hour or so like it would be for a liquor license. They don't have to walk through the whole building and inspect all that, right?
and I think the other question is because of the requirements, the insurance the city has to maintain because of this, there are certain other requirements. It's not just about the officer going to look at this. There are other things that we had in part of that. To where, as Manuel said, if we have 1,500 people come in tomorrow, we're looking at a full-time employee to go and round these things up. And if we waive the fees completely, who's gonna pay for that full-time employee? Everybody else in the community, or do they pay for their own way since they wanted it? That's the question.
But the point is, we don't have 1,500 right now. We got 15.
So then it's still just a novelty, really.
So
If you can afford the feed, you
Right.
could probably afford the fee. I mean, you're gonna have to feed them and water them,
Right.
maintain them,
The
Buy the coop.
responsibility is there.
buy a coop.
Keep it clean, sanitary conditions.
I had a chance to go through the ordinance here, and I really didn't see a problem with it. But I do like the idea of adding maybe the circumstances there and bringing that forth to the council. You know, I could see that there is time involved, sending an officer out there or the ordinance officer. I could see that where there is a little bit of administration time. I wasn't here at the beginning when it got brought forth, so I agree also with Manuel. It's kind of like a novelty. If you want them, so be it. It's a cost associated with everything that we plan to do. Now, I also agree, if we had 15,000 come in at the time, then there's our problem right there. Then we're gonna be revisiting the issue all over again. I mean, honestly, me personally, I don't think $50 is an awful lot of money to have to come up with to have 10 hens. And then $25 every year after that, I really don't see that being a problem.
And if it is, they could request a waiver, as we were talking about. That could be something we could look at on a case by case, or we can waive it for a certain period of time if the council so chooses. So we kind of have, I'll just go down. I mean, Joe, you just kind of give your opinion, Mike kind of give your opinion. Jerry?
I think we should keep the $50 and the 25, because then later on, we will have the citizens again complaining because there's chickens here, there's chickens there. That mess was not cleaned up. We end up with rats and snakes. I mean, that's like any other business, a restaurant, a liquor store. If they can't afford their license, then they don't get to do it. It's the same thing with the chicken coops. And that's my opinion. I think we should keep it.
Mike?
I would tend to agree with Jerry. I think it goes with the responsibility is there. And I don't think it's that much, I'll probably be in trouble with it, but I don't think it's that much money to bear that responsibility. My son and daughter-in-law live out in the county, and they've had raised chickens. So I know firsthand what the responsibility is from a sanitation standpoint. If all of a sudden this took off, as it could, we don't know. But we could be, it's just a responsibility thing. And like was said, liquor licenses, anything else, it's all a responsibility.
Emmanuel?
Yeah, I don't think we should change the fee if we were gonna review anything on the ordinance. The only thing I might consider is that it's to be located less than 5 feet from any property line, maybe changing that if it would be feasible to exclude if they have an alleyway, that they would be able to put it closer if they have an alleyway. But any other property line, they would have to keep it within 5 feet except for an alleyway line.
I'm in favor of keeping the fees the way they are, but allowing for people to petition for if they have a hardship.
I'm in agreement with that too. That's what I missed saying. That I think the city has been said here tonight that the city will work with individuals based on the circumstances. And Linda kind of.
My only caution with that is how do you prove the hardship? Where do you draw the line? And then you're looking at if they're already in a hardship, can they afford the feed?
True.
Right. True. Well, that would be the case-by-case basis, and, that would be something we could look at, but it kind of sounds like the consensus is not to change the fees. And, mainly my whole purpose of this discussion was to see if you wanted to take any action, but as I said, the consensus is to leave the fees to where they're at. Me personally, I like the idea of adding the exemption for hardship or, a special request, but I don't think that we should do that across the board because there are costs associated with that. And somebody will need to pay that, whether it's all the other citizens in the community or the individuals that want this, this capability to be able to do that. So, anything else you want to add? I don't think we really need to take a vote on anything unless, do we want to give Lance or Rob a direction to bring back amended ordinance
Well,
section?
do we need to add the extenuating circumstances to this ordinance here to make it official? or-
I'll tell you that that's always an option. You do not have to have the ability to ask for a waiver in every ordinance. They can always come and ask for a waiver, and that comes before the council, because you guys are the ultimate deciders in the costs and fees to citizens of the city, so.
Okay. So we'll just leave the ordinance as it is and just remind everybody that they have the opportunity to request a hardship waiver if that is the case, and we can take that on a case-by-case basis. Are we good with that, everybody?
I think
Yes.
so.
I think so.
Okay. So,
No vote needed.
no vote needed, we'll just move on from there. Thank you, Kyle, for your help.
Can I add one more thing there, Kirk? You made mention of the Facebook posts and everything.
Yes.
And I read some of those comments, and I made the comment that every city council meeting has, as we said at the beginning of this meeting, an open forum for anything not on the agenda that people are welcome to come and express concern. And I think that's open to any citizen in this community. Come and, we'll listen to you.
Come talk to me on a coffee with Rob.
There you go.
We have coffee with Rob, we
Yeah.
have our council work sessions, we have council breakfast and council dinners, and we have our once-a-meeting public sessions. So there's plenty of ways to get a hold of the council and express your opinion that you may have, and let us know what your direction is that you'd like us to take. Any other miscellaneous items before we go? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the next city council meeting.